Golf Smarter, number 705, is brought to you by Autoslash.com, the completely free service that saves users up to 30% on car rentals. Just make sure that when you register, you have every one of your special membership codes and frequent flyer numbers so that they can track that extra savings that comes with those programs. So whether you're renting a car for business or pleasure, make sure you track it and save with Autoslash.com. There are a variety of grasses used on golf courses. How important is this information for golfers? With George Kelly.
This is Golf Smarter, sharing stories, tips, and insights from great golf minds to help you lower your score and raise your golf IQ. Here's your host, Fred Green.
Welcome to the Golf Smarter podcast, George.
Hello, Fred.
Are you sure?
Good to be with you.
It's good to be with you, too. It's always a tough question. So, interesting how we got together. I've played Corica Park in Alameda, California, a couple times now. And I was having a conversation with the mayor of Alameda because we were recording a podcast for a different show that we do called the Affordable Housing Podcast. And I mentioned that I played Corica Park in her backyard, and she said, "Oh, would you like to do," because I told her about the podcast, and she said, "You want to talk to somebody over there? I can help you." I'm like, okay, let's see. And within 24 hours, you and I are talking. So pretty amazing.
Yeah, well, that's bodes well for what we're doing over there. I think the city appreciates our efforts, and it's when we were first awarded the contract, it was going to be a renovation, and little did they know that we're building them a brand new facility. We're leaving no stone unturned, and basically by importing the dirt, we're building a brand new golf course. This is not a renovation.
Yeah. We'll get back into Corica Park later. I definitely want to talk about that course because it's so interesting. But let's get back to you and your history first and how you ended up with Greenway Golf, which is the name of your company, and what it is that you do. But let's go with your personal history in golf first.
Okay. You got a lot of time?
I'll let you know when it's time to stop.
I'll give you the short version. I'll try and be short, but golf has been part of my life since I was 12 years old. I'm from a farming family in rural Merced County, and my parents met in the Marine Corps, and they were both very well educated. My dad went to Dartmouth, my mother went to Stanford, and I was the oldest of four boys, and they wanted us to have a good education as well, and the schools in the Central Valley, out in the rural part of the valley, were not great. So the choice was to send us to boarding school or buy a second home. And my dad, attorney at the time, owned a house in Pebble Beach on the first green, and he basically was like a little summer cottage. And he asked his buddy, his attorney, Ray Robinson, he said, "Ray, you have a place over there. I'm thinking about buying a home. Do you have a good realtor that you could recommend?" And he goes, "Why don't you just buy my house? I never use it." So in 1962, my dad bought a house on the first green at Pebble Beach and told us that we were moving to Pebble Beach. I said, "Pebble what? Where are we going?"
Wow.
And so back in those days, Pebble was privately owned by Sam Morse, who lived in the middle of the first fairway. And, I was a typical young kid that played all the sports, baseball, basketball, football, and I just had a bunch of good friends, and we went hard every weekend and after school. And golf my dad was a golfer, but it never even crossed my mind. And then we moved over there, and I didn't have any friends, and, I bitched and moaned, and my dad said, "Well, why don't you shut up and I'll get you some golf lessons, and maybe you might like it." And kind of the rest is history.
Well, that was the history I was going after. The rest that's the history.
Literally, I lived, breathed, and bled golf as a kid growing up in Pebble Beach, and really didn't realize how special it was until I went to SC on a on a golf scholarship, and was down in Southern California in the late '60s, and the smog was horrific, and the traffic congestion, and the LA freeways, and I hated it. And I would drive back to Pebble, and I'd come into the forest, and I'd drive about 5 miles an hour, and take big deep breaths and fresh air, and look at all the pine trees, and that was the first time I realized that I really had something special growing up and going to high school over there.
Did you always look at golf courses when you were young as a canvas, or were you just a golfer?
No, I didn't really look at golf courses as a canvas back in those days, where I would have appreciated Pebble Beach a little bit more.
Yeah.
But when I first started doing that was when I played international. Played internationally for 3 years. I played on the European tour, Australia, New Zealand, and Asia. And when I was in Australia and Europe, I really started noticing surfaces on golf courses, and I just for the first time I really took notice, and I really knew what I liked and what I didn't like. And I liked the fast and firm. I liked kind of link style golf. I liked putting on greens that weren't bumpy and thatchy, and I liked bent grass. It was kind of the first time I'd really experienced bent grass greens, and I knew that's kind of what I wanted. When I built Stevenson Ranch in 1995, I told my superintendent that two things. I said, A, brown is beautiful, and B, I want to maintain and manage bent grass. And he couldn't believe when I told him that I wanted a golf course to be brown and firm. He said, I've been a superintendent for 30 years. I've never heard any owner tell me he wanted the golf course to be brown.
Yeah, you surprised me as well, and I'm not working for you.
Yeah, well, I just maybe I'm a little bit ahead of my time, because the USGA struggles with it a little bit, and you look at the Open Championships from Scotland and Ireland this year, and you see golf courses that look much different than the Augusta variety that we've gotten used to in this country. But with water being such a premium commodity, and and very expensive, and we've got to start rethinking the way we maintain and manage golf courses. And most people see brown on a golf course and they think the grass is dead. It's just the opposite. If you overwater and you overfeed grass, it gets puffy and fat and lazy. But if you're stressing the golf courses out, providing it just enough water to get by, just enough fertilizer to live on, then you've got a surface that really starts to make sense and plays beautifully on when you're playing golf. So I know I'm probably in the minority on this, but I've been an advocate for that kind of surface for a long time.
Well, there's a difference between grass that's brown and just dirt. Right, because there are a lot of places that just the grass is worn out or it's dried out and there's nothing there. It's just dirt. It's just hardpan, right?
Yeah. Well, in those cases, yes. That you need to either sod or rope those areas off and let the grass recover or whatever. But yeah, I'm not talking about hardpan. I'm just talking about off color. Not striped up verdant green surfaces.
Uh-huh.
You don't see stripes. Our fairways in this country, and they do the aerial shots and all that, and you see the mowing patterns, and you'll see the fairways are striped. Well, you can only stripe a fairway if you've got a lot of grass to work with. You don't see that kind of visual image when you're playing on the great links courses of the world. And it's not just links. There's a lot of golf courses, in the UK and around the world in Australia. I particularly love playing down in Melbourne in the sand belt, with Royal Melbourne and Kingston Heath and Metropolitan. Those are some of the best golf courses in the world.
Yeah, and I'm fascinated. We're going to talk about what it is, what an Australian links course is, because that's what you've developed out of Corica Park. But how long did you play professionally in Australia?
I played down there. I actually only played in Australia for 1 year. I played total of 3 years as a touring pro.
Did you ever get into being an instructor after that?
No, I went straight into commercial real estate after I quit playing golf.
Mm-hmm. Putting that SC education to use.
Yeah, well, I didn't stay. I didn't finish my story, but I didn't stay at SC. I transferred after 2 years I made an environmental transfer to the University of Colorado, and I'm a very proud Colorado Buffalo. So my son went there, and we're going there this weekend to visit him, and I'm going to stay over for a week and go to the Colorado-Nebraska game next Saturday.
Oh, well, then I'll avoid saying fight on.
Yeah. I mean, I don't have any hard feelings. I still have a lot of friends. I was in a fraternity down there, but the L.A. jungle was a little too much for me.
Yeah, I get it. Hey, listen, this episode of the Golf Smarter podcast is brought to you by Autoslash.com. And I just want to let you know that when you book at Autoslash, they apply every coupon code you're eligible for, including publicly available codes and special membership-only codes. If you indicate like you're a member of Costco or AAA or other memberships like credit cards or frequent flyer programs, this is 50% of the magic of what Autoslash can do when you want to book a car rental, is that they'll look at those coupon codes and they'll find you better rates. And once you've booked something, you can track pricing by putting that reservation into the Autoslash tracker, and Autoslash will keep on looking for better deals right up to the pickup date. And rates often drop as the pickup date approaches, as we've talked to Jonathan many times, and you've heard him talk about how volatile the car rental industry is. So you can often save a significant amount of money. Not only will Autoslash check the company you're currently booked with, but they'll look at all the companies, every other car rental company. You don't have to take it if you don't want it. But if Autoslash finds a lower rate, they're going to email you so that you can rebook and save. Many customers rebook multiple times as the rates continue to drop and Autoslash continues to find better deals. Again, that tracker is 50% of the magic. So it's essential that you take all those memberships that you have and enter it in. And I can't believe that Autoslash is free. I mean, any other program that does this much work for you, they're going to get something out of it from you as well as from the companies they're dealing with. But nope, this one's free. And to prove to you that the average user saves 30% off the rate that they can find on any other car rental site, I got an email the other day from a Golf Smarter listener, Matt McElroy, and he just said that I just wanted to let you know that I'm tracking a Golf Buddies car rental for South Carolina next month, and I've already saved $80 with Autoslash.com. What a great service. Thank you, Matt. That was very kind of you to write. If you have any experience with Autoslash, just email me and let me know what you have to say, and we'll share it with everybody because y'all need to hear this. It's an amazing thing. That's Autoslash.com, AUTOSLASH, Autoslash.com, and we thank them for sponsoring both Golf Smarter, Golf Smarter Mulligans, and for all the giveaways they've been doing and will continue to do. That's Autoslash.com. Well, I want to talk about Greenway Golf, about your company, how you got it started and what it is that you do, because you're not just a company that creates golf courses. You manage them, you get into restoration, you do maintenance and construction, and I'm really fascinated about turf over planting. You do a lot of different things that seem to be unique in this industry.
Yeah, we're definitely kind of a one-off company, and it's primarily due to the fact that my partner Mark Logan, the Aussie, has had a lot of experience building golf courses, and he also has developed basically a bent grass management program, and he spent a couple of years at Royal Melbourne, and at the time in the mid '80s, they still had the original bent grass greens considered among the best in the world. They had only 3 superintendents over that period of time from the inception of Royal Melbourne in the 20s, and he learned the methodology that had been passed down on for 3 different superintendents, and basically it's a whole new way of maintaining and managing bent grass. It's a nutritional and cultural program. Bent grass is a much different type of grass than POA, and POA is essentially a weed that will invade a surface if you don't know what you're doing and you don't know how to maintain and manage bent grass. So I was I was a golf course real estate broker in the 80s and 90s, and then I built my own golf course in 95. We opened Stevenson Ranch. As I told you earlier, I wanted to maintain bent grass greens, and my superintendent didn't really understand how we were going to do that long term. He told me it was going to be an ongoing battle. And in the late 90s, I was kind of out of the brokerage business. Someone told me about an unbelievable piece of property up in Sonoma County that I needed to go see. So I went up there, and it was basically Mayacama, and I saw that property, and I said, "Whoa, man, this is unbelievable! I've got to figure this one out." So for about 2 years, I was completely obsessed with finding the development deal, or putting a development deal together at Mayacama, and I was able to. And Mark Logan had been hired as a construction manager and the growing superintendent up there. So we spent a lot of time. I stayed on board to help the developer, who was from Colorado, with a founding member program and vintner program and the whole deal. So I was actively involved at that time. So we spent a lot of time in the construction trailer together, and I was just talking to him about, turf management, and he was telling me that it was possible to maintain and manage bent grass indefinitely, and it was music to my ears. So I ended up hiring Mark to consult with me at Stevenson Ranch, and the results were so compelling that I was laying awake one night and couldn't sleep, and I said, I've got the contacts in the industry and the business, and he's got the expertise. So I called him the next day, and I said, "Hey, do you want to consider going into business together?" And he said, "Yeah, that sounds great." So we formed Greenway Golf in 2001, and along the way, we've met with quite a bit of resistance because the chemical companies are so powerful and influential in the golf business, and they don't want bent grass to be the predominant type of grass to play on and putt on in the western United States or the Northeast, because it requires very little in the way of pesticides, herbicides, fungicides, and that sort of thing. And there's a lot of money in the chemical industry, and so along the way we've been met with skepticism, resistance, and what have you. But finally, after nearly 20 years, we're starting to gain some acceptance in the industry. A lot of superintendents have taken notice. Several are kind of following our protocol to a certain extent. And it's, we're finally being considered a real viable entity in the turf management business. But it's largely, as I mentioned earlier, it's largely because of my partner, Mark Logan.
So interesting. Mayacama is an incredibly exclusive piece of property, beautiful. When I was just starting to play golf is when it was being developed. And I had a neighbor at the time who went up there, and he had a second home up there. And he said he went and took the tour and told the guys, okay, I will join your club that's not even going to be open for a year and a half, but I will join if you can assure me that I will be the first guy off the tee. And the person he was discussing it with said, well, sure, why do you want to be the first one off the tee? And he said, because I want to hold the course record. So anyway, what is it about Mayacama that is so unique?
Well, it's a very special piece of property. It's absolutely got so many beautiful natural features. The rolling, the terrain is ideally suited for a golf course. The clubhouse site is among the best I've ever encountered it. When you sit out on the deck up there, you can see nearly half the golf course. It's just and then the whole vision with, the Wilhelm family with the Vintner membership and the exclusivity and the lodging element and all that. It just, it's turned out absolutely beautifully. I was there on Tuesday, played in the Youth on Course tournament, and it's just every time I'm there, it's a very special experience.
Yeah. Talk about that vintner program. That's what I found so interesting, is that you're up in Sonoma County, which is very heavily wine manufacturers, winemakers, wine growers. And you have a special program just for those guys.
Yeah. So the part of the original vision was to create basically a vintner membership where we attracted and reached out to 35 of the top vintners in that region. One of the criteria was they had to have a wine that was rated at least 92 or better by Wine Spectator or Parker. And then they built a wine, basically a wine cave under the clubhouse site. So every member has its own wine locker.
Wow.
The vintners, they got in for half dues and half initiation fee, so it was an incentive to them to join. And the only prerequisite was that they had to contribute a case at their FOB cost every year. So we've got some amazing vintner members up there, and that's really makes it very unique. There's very few clubs that have that kind of experience and amenity.
And access.
Yes. We have Harlan, Harlan Estates is one of the vintner members. I used to work for Bill Harlan back in the 90s or 80s at Pacific Union Company. So I got Bill involved, even though he's not much of a golfer.
Wow. Well, let's hope that maybe a winery is going to step up right now. We're going to take a short break. We'll be right back. Maybe you can help me out on this. I'm not really sure, but as a golfer, when I'm walking a golf course, I have no idea what type of grass this is. How can I tell the difference between a POA or a bent grass, or I don't even know what the other options might be? And why would I need to know that as a golfer?
You don't really need to know that as a golfer, to be honest with you. A good POA green putts very nicely. It's primarily, it's cost benefits primarily in my opinion, and much easier to maintain bent grass. It is a more consistent surface. They develop roots of, 8 to 9 inches deep, so very resistant to all sorts of disease pressures and temperature pressures and humidity and those kinds of things, where POA only has like a half-inch root, and so it's very problematic. And anytime there's going to be excessive heat or not enough water or any fungus or disease pressure, you're constantly having to do preventative maintenance, which is very expensive, putting out preventative fungicides and that type of thing, and it's also, quite honestly, the fungicides have been linked to Parkinson's disease and other medical ailments and conditions. So
wow.
it's just a better surface. Now in the fairways, ryegrass requires a tremendous amount of water, and you can have an excellent ryegrass fairway. But as I mentioned earlier, water is becoming very scarce, especially in the West. Ryegrass doesn't do particularly well in hot and humid conditions. So we over the last, I'd say, 20, 30 years, have been some really good breakthroughs in hybrid Bermuda grasses. Typically, people thought Bermuda would only do well in a very warm climate, like you find in the warm and humid, like down in Texas and Arizona and parts of the southern United States. But there are hybrid Bermudas that have been developed, and one of the most prevalent right now, and in large part because of Mark's efforts to plant more hybrid Bermuda, is the Santa Ana, which is the surface that we have out at Corica Park, and it's requires about 40% less water, less mowing. It maintains a nice firm and dry condition. You don't get, you're not getting mud on your ball, and when the ball hits the fairway, which you can typically do with soft ryegrass fairways. You have heat, you got to water ryegrass a lot. So when you overwater, you're going to end up with soft and muddy conditions. And there's just any number of reasons. But I mean, if you're just an average golfer and you're going out and playing and you like what you're playing on it, then that's great. I mean, you don't really need to know what you're putting on or playing on.
Yeah. But it sure seems that would be for the bent grass for greens, having the 9-inch roots makes it easier to change the location of the hole every day without damaging the surface, huh?
Absolutely, yeah.
Interesting. Now let's talk about Corica Park, because this is a city-owned course, correct? Greenway Golf is just managing the property?
We're leasing it.
You're leasing it from the city?
Right.
Oh.
We pay rent.
Okay. And it started out with 2 courses, and it's been there forever? What's the history of Corica Park?
Originally goes back to 1927.
Wow.
And, I think portions of that property were a result of, when they filled the Oakland, there was like a tidal marsh out in that area where the Oakland airport is, and that was all filled in to build the airport. And I think portions of our property were treated the same way. I think that I'm not positive when there was 18 holes there for a long time. And then I think in the 50s, I think the South course was actually the original golf course. In the 50s, I think that Billy Bell Jr. Designed the North course. And portions of that golf course had been a landfill. And so, and then large portions of the property, because it was like a filled-in tidal marsh historically, we were at or below sea level. So, whenever it rained, there was basically no drainage. So very difficult to maintain at a high level. So what we did was, when the city put it out to bid, it came with requirements that the par 3 and the driving range and the South course needed to be renovated. And it was renovated, not necessarily built brand new like we did. We were the only company that had the vision to import the dirt to elevate the site. Everybody else was just going to do a classic kind of renovation, redo the greens, tees, and bunkers, and tweak the irrigation and drainage. But as I mentioned, when there's no place to drain because you're at or below sea level, it's almost an impossibility. So we were the only ones with a vision to import the dirt to elevate the site, to create the features and the drainage and the irrigation, and basically build a brand new golf course. And we had a responsibility or an obligation in our lease for the North Course originally to redo the cart paths, greens, bunkers, and drainage. And then when we got into it, redoing the South Course, we realized that there was so many deficiencies in the original construction on the entire property that the only way to really enhance the facility and do it right was to do what we had done on the South, which was importing the dirt. So originally our contract was for 25 years, and we went back to the city with a revised scope of work, which was to completely renovate the North Course as we have the South. And so we got our lease was amended for another 25 years. So now it's a 50-year lease, and
wow.
we have, we've been in there 6 years. So it's effectively 44 more years. Needless to say, I'm not going to be around for the renewal.
But your company will, hopefully.
Well, hopefully, yeah.
So, and you designed, you had Rees Jones come in and design this as an Australian links course. Now, I've never heard of Australian links. What separates Australian links from links style courses?
Well, it's not really links, because the classic definition of links is land along the sea.
Oh.
And so courses it really is a sand belt style. So there's a lot of sand in the Melbourne area historically, and there's there are trees. There's kind of a heathland type look to it, but one of the design elements and features of those golf courses is large features, fast and firm, lots of bunkering, lots of strategic elements in the design style, and the angles of attack. Play conservatively, you can play aggressively, and it's a design style that is very enjoyable to play, because for the most part, lots of area to play golf. I mean, big areas, especially on the front nine out there. It's almost impossible to hit it off the course. I mean, the fairways are, gigantic.
Yep.
Again, a lot of bunkers, but there's a lot of area and a lot of room to play golf. And so the way I best describe it is that it's very easy to play, yet hard to score on. And that's kind of an ideal situation, because, really it's a golf course that is enjoyable for every skill set, from the touring pros to the 30 handicapper.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I agree with you. And Corica Park is a lot of fun. It is challenging. It's, easy to play, but hard to score. You're right. That's a great way to describe it.
Yeah. So we're very happy with the way it turned out. We had worked with Rees on a couple of projects because, as I mentioned, we do construction, and so we had been hired as project managers on a couple of projects on the East Coast. And my partner Mark got to know Rees, and he's just a great guy to work with. He's just delightful, and really enjoyable conversations about design styles and strategies and bunker locations and all those things. And so he's not completely set in his ways like other architects are. He will gladly engage a new idea or thought on the design, and then he'll think about it and he'll say, hey, that's a good idea, I really like that, let's do that. Or he'll be a guy that say, well, I hear where you're coming from, but this is the reason I don't think it's going to work out so well.
Yeah, he's an experienced designer. Yeah.
So we really thought Rees would be the ideal guy to design the golf course, and it really was kind of a joint effort with Rees and Mark. Mark was very involved, and I had a little bit of influence. I was responsible for a couple of the bunkers out there, and then I was responsible with the idea to reverse 10 and 18, which is really, really, I think, enhance the golf course considerably, because it allows us to have a much longer par 3 on number 11 and then it allows for a double tee, 18 and 11, and it flows better too, with 10 dogleg left, right by coming off the right next to the first tee, whereas before the 18th green was there, and a lot of people were, if they pulled or yanked their second shot to the left, oftentimes it was flying into the people walking off the first tee, so there was a danger element there as well.
Well, I found 18 is a great finishing hole. It's tough. You really got to position yourself well to even see the flag, and if you do, you're not really sure if you've made it onto the green or how big it is. It's definitely one of those courses I felt like, okay, I got to play this a second time. I've got to play this again because now that I understand a little more about it, I want to do it again.
Yep, no doubt about it. I mean, I think, and it plays differently every time you play it, which is, again, an ideal scenario. One of the things that's really, is really refreshing and rewarding for us is that we're seeing a lot of repeat play. Typically when you open a new golf course, you'll get a lot of looky-loos coming out and playing one time. They go, okay, yep, all right, I played it. I'm done. I don't need to go back or whatever. But what we're seeing is a lot of repeat play. So people coming out for the first time, maybe coming over from the peninsula area or whatever, coming there and going, wow, this is fantastic. I want to do this again. So they start putting it into a kind of a regular rotation. And as a result of that, we've been busy from, literally every day of the week, from our first tee time at 6:10 in the morning to, late in the afternoon around 4:30. So it's
great.
It really validates our vision for the property, and it's exciting to see that many people out playing golf on a regular basis.
And I got to say that is one of the coolest, maybe hippest pro shops that I've ever been in. Big glass windows, wide open. It's not dark and woodsy.
Yeah, no, that's, John Ashworth is an old friend of mine, and John and I shared kind of the opinion that why does every golf shop in America have to look the same?
Yeah. It's obvious that you don't want to be.
No, so, it's when you first arrive on the property and you go in that golf shop, you immediately know that something is unusual or different about this property. And so having the Link Soul Lab in there and having, a ping pong table and skateboards, and there's a surfboard on the wall, and selling different kinds of whiskey and it's just it's really cool. And then the Link Soul product line is fantastic. So it's just a classic win-win, and it's been great having the Link Soul guys there.
Awesome. Wow. So interesting. Congratulations. Fascinating business. I'm glad it's successful for you, and hopefully that you will be there when that contract expires.
Well, yeah, God willing, they'll be rolling me in a wheelchair. That's for sure.
They'll bring you up when the contract gets renewed. They'll bring you up and say, and now at the first tee for his, we'll dedicate this shot, and you'll be able to just swing a club and fall down.
Well, let me put it this way. There is zero chance I'm going to be around. I'm going to be 70 years old in January, and so do the math on that. Unless I'm one of the oldest people on the planet, which with my lifestyle, I doubt that's going to happen. So,
George, it's been great talking to you. Thanks so much for sharing your time and what you do. I appreciate it.
Well, you're welcome, Fred. It's been enjoyable. Thank you so much for having me.
I really like playing that golf course. Hey, I want to apologize because on the last episode and on the website, I mistakenly put that the deadline for our next giveaway is August 25. Well, obviously that was incorrect since we announced the winner on August 27 of our last giveaway. So I want to make sure that you know that the deadline to enter our next drawing is Sunday, September 9, 2019. And that would be midnight Pacific time, 3 a.m. Eastern. You have till that time to enter to win a prize that you're going to want. It's a dozen golf balls of your choice from twoguyswithgolfballs.com. Now to enter, Go to golfsmarter.com and click on the giveaway banner at the top of the homepage. And once you enter, please make sure you subscribe to our newsletter, as it's going through a remodel right now. In addition to updating you on the latest episodes that you may have missed of Golf Smarter and Golf Smarter Mulligans, we're going to start offering more video in each email. I only did this because whenever I'm going through all the emails, stuff that I receive every day, if they don't have videos in it, I'm not interested. So why aren't I doing that? And almost every one of these guests that we have on the show has a YouTube channel. So why not feature it so you can see what I was looking at when I decided, yeah, that person needs to be on Golf Smarter. And this week on Golf Smarter Mulligans, we're going out of our original order a little bit because I realized that I missed some. Boy, I've screwed up lately a lot. Oof, that I've missed some great instructional conversations that I wanted to share with you. So we go to episode 44 with Jay Ewing of the Bird Golf Academy. You may have heard about bird golf in a previous Mulligans episode with Carrie Mumford. Carrie created the Clear Key system to help improve your mental game, and it's a featured element of the Bird Golf Academy, along with yoga, game management, and course mechanics. So check out Golf Smarter Mulligans this week. The episode is What to Look For in a Golf Academy or a Golf Instructor. And Mulligans is supported by Autoslash.com and TwoGuysWithGolfBalls.com. And I emphasize golf balls so you don't get the wrong URL. TwoGuysWithGolfBalls.com. I've been receiving some really flattering emails lately from listeners around the world, which I don't usually share, but some that come in actually could be of help to you or sound like something that you're also going through. So this email was actually forwarded to me by Josh Zander, who's been featured on the show many times. But specifically, this email refers to Josh's first appearance from October 2017 on episode number 607, which is still available for you to track down and listen to. The email came from Gordon McKellar from the UK. Thanks, Gordon. I appreciate it. And he says, "Hi, Josh. This is just a quick email to thank you for the podcast you did for Golf Smarter, where a short game clinic you ran was recorded and played on the podcast. I listen to an awful lot of podcasts, and very rarely have I ever re-listened to them, but I've listened to this 3 times now and have kept it to play again. I listened to it almost open-mouthed. It was so clear and concise about how to chip and pitch, the angle of the shaft, the bounce, etc. In this one podcast, I have improved more than anything else since I started playing golf a couple years ago. I approach these pitch and chip shots with so much more confidence, and it feels like the only thing I need to do is decide how far the club needs to go back to get the correct distance. But more than that, it's helped me move forward in my game. It's hard to improve in the finer aspects of the game when such an important part as chipping and pitching was so shaky and I was uncomfortable playing those shots. It's been a revelation. I'm enjoying my golf so much more and feel I'm really improving. Thanks again." Oh, that's awesome. That's the kind of stuff I run into the other room, tell my wife, look at this one. This is a good. So anyway, thank you, Gordon, for your support, your kind words, and letting our instructors know that you guys are listening. That's really great. So get your free subscription for Golf Smarter and Golf Smarter Mulligans wherever you get your favorite podcasts. And if you have any questions, comments, or suggestions, please click on the Hey Fred button at golfsmarter.com.